say napkins back there.
Jury's in the jury box and seated, Your Honor.
You may call your first witness.
Your Honor, the state calls Officer William Vickers.
Sir, if you would step all the way over here for me, please. Stand right here. Face this way, raise your right hand, and take you.
You do solemnly swear affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Now, sir, if you would have a seat in the red chair, speak in a loud and clear voice for the court. Make sure you move up close to that mic.
Good afternoon, Officer Vickers.
Good afternoon. Would you please turn to the jury and introduce yourself and tell them your name?
Officer William Vickers.
How do you spell your last name for the record?
V as in Victor, I-C-K-E-R-S.
What is your occupation?
I'm a police officer with the St. Petersburg Police Department.
How long have you been a police officer?
10 years.
Was all of that with the St. Petersburg Police Department?
Yes, sir.
Can you briefly describe your training and experience with the St. Petersburg Police Department?
I've completed the basic police recruit program, interview and interrogation, radar laser speed measurement, general instructor techniques, sex crimes investigations, juvenile sex crimes, forensic trauma experiential interviewing, numerous general instructor courses as well.
What type of assignments have you had during your career at the police department?
I've been a field training officer, I've been an economic crimes detective, and I've been a special victims detective.
What does a field training officer do?
Field training officer trains newly minted St. Petersburg police officers, trains them in the application of what they've gone through in the police academy, and make sure they understand, can apply the law, as well as understanding and applying our general orders and standard operating procedures.
What is your current assignment today?
I am currently assigned as a field training officer in District 3.
Where's District 3?
It's the west side of the city.
And what was your assignment on January 7th, 2015?
I was a field training officer in District 2, the north side of the city.
Okay. And as a field training officer, you were in patrol, correct?
That's correct.
What are the duties of a patrol officer?
Primarily, it's 911 responding. You also have some follow-up investigations, some self-initiated things where you make contact with people in the field, as well as traffic stops and other different types of activities for late reported incidents.
Can you tell the jury approximately what your hours were for your shifts in January 2015?
I worked 2 p.m. to midnight.
Okay. And do you recall the events of the evening of Thursday, January 8th, 2015? Actually, that would be the evening of Wednesday, the 7th, early morning hours of January the 8th, 2015.
I do.
What were you doing on January 8th, 2015, just after midnight?
I was on my way home.
Okay. And what was your normal route?
I would take I-275 south through the city and then cross over the Skyway.
Okay. And had you just completed your shift for the day?
I had.
And what were you driving?
I was driving a marked Crown Victoria police cruiser number 3841.
What were you wearing?
I was wearing our former green full uniform.
Okay. And just after midnight, did you observe something unusual as you were approaching the southern tip of Pinellas County?
I did.
Can you tell the jury what you saw?
As I was southbound, I noticed in my rearview mirror a car overtaking me at a high rate of speed. I estimated that car to be traveling approximately 100 miles per hour. I was southbound at 70 miles an hour in the median lane.
And this was on Interstate 275?
Yes, sir.
Going south?
Yes, sir.
Approximately where were you on Interstate 275 when you observed this?
Right about the Pinellas Bayway 54th Avenue South exit.
Can you describe the vehicle? What kind of vehicle was it?
It was a white Chrysler PT Cruiser.
Approximately what time did you see this?
Just after midnight.
Okay. And did you see the vehicle in your rearview mirror or after it had passed you? At what point did you first see the vehicle?
I saw the vehicle approaching in the rearview mirror. I was able to identify the type and make of vehicle as it passed me.
Okay. And what happened as it passed you?
As it passed me, it whipped between myself and another vehicle that was also southbound, causing us to both take evasive action, and the speed with which it passed me moved my vehicle on the roadway.
Okay. What lane were you in as you were going southbound?
I was in the left-hand median lane.
Left-hand median lane. And where was this other vehicle, not the white PT Cruiser?
It was in the right lane. It was as 275 narrows down to 2 lanes.
And so this other vehicle was on your right, is that correct?
That's correct.
And you're in the left lane. Where did the PT Cruiser pass both of you?
There was a small gap between my car and the other. It essentially cut me off as it whipped between the 2 vehicles to get over into the left lane.
What happened next?
I alerted radio of the vehicle being southbound at a very high rate of speed. Based on my training and my experience, that trying to accelerate and catch up to a vehicle at that rate of speed is unsafe. Also, due to our pursuit policies, I would not have been able to try and stop the vehicle if it had chosen to flee from me. So for safety purposes, I alerted radio of the vehicle, and allows other officers to be on the lookout for that vehicle.
So you did not conduct a traffic stop, correct?
I did not.
Did you activate your police lights
I did not.
or sirens?
I did not.
What happened next?
Normally, I would try and get off to where that vehicle doesn't believe that I'm going to be following them. Unfortunately, at that particular location, there's no place for me to get off. I continued around, and as I continued around, there's a bend leading to the Pinellas Point exit. As I came around that bend, just prior to the Pinellas Point exit, I saw the vehicle very hard on the brakes, a long black skid mark on the roadway, as well as smoke emanating from the rear tires.
Okay. Was he hitting his brakes?
Yes.
What happened next?
The vehicle then began driving at a fairly normal rate of speed, and I didn't accelerate to catch up. I caught up on normal speed. At that point, I determined, let me go ahead and try a traffic stop, because the vehicle was then driving in apparently a normal manner. Basic safety for initiating a traffic stop is to obtain the tag, identify how many drivers or how many occupants are in the vehicle, any identifying information about the vehicle, and trying to determine a place to stop it, predicting a possible stop. The reason I want to get all that information is, should something go wrong in the traffic stop, it's already there. Because if I were to initiate a traffic stop without that information, we may not have a lead if something were to go wrong.
So what did you do next?
I got behind the vehicle, I called out the tag. At that point, we're approaching the Dick Misener Bridge.
Can I interrupt you for just a second? What was the tag on the white PT Cruiser?
May I refer to my report?
Yes.
DERP27.
Is that the tag you called out?
It was.
Then what happened?
The anticipated place where I wanted to make a stop for safety reasons would have been the base of the Dick Misener Bridge. Conducting a traffic stop on a bridge or at the top of a bridge is inherently dangerous, especially on the highway. It's a very narrow shoulder, and there's also very limited visibility.
So what happened after that?
As we reached the approximate top of the bridge, the vehicle pulled over abruptly prior to me activating my lights and sirens or anything like that. When the vehicle pulled over abruptly, I immediately pulled over. At that point, I turned on my lights, and the driver exited the vehicle, so I also exited the vehicle.
So would you agree that the vehicle stopped without you having conducted a traffic stop?
That's correct.
And did it choose the location that you would have preferred?
Absolutely not.
You would have preferred either the other side or the base of the bridge before you began the incline. Is that accurate?
That's accurate.
Okay, so when you pulled in behind this vehicle, what was the distance between the white PT Cruiser and your vehicle?
Approximately 1 car length to a car length and a half, so 10 to 15 feet.
What side of the bridge did you and the white PT Cruiser pull over on? Left side, right side?
The right side of the bridge.
And what's the name of this bridge?
The Dick Misener Bridge.
And what happened next?
The driver was already out of the vehicle and began approaching me with something large in his hand. Based on training that I've seen, at that point I was fearful for a violent encounter. I drew my firearm and maintained it in a low ready with the anticipation of a firefight. The driver continued to approach me. I ordered them back into the car. They did not respond. As they continued to approach, the driver yelled, "You have no free will," and crossed in between the two cars. At that point, the driver walked around to the passenger side and reached in. I ordered the driver to show me their hands. They still did not comply. At that point, I was still anticipating a violent encounter, possibly firearm related. The driver emerged from the vehicle holding a small child who appeared to be asleep at the time, turned and let the child go over the side of the bridge.
What did the child look like?
I would estimate at that time 7, maybe 8 years of age at the time. Looked like a girl with long brown hair.
How about the race of the child?
Caucasian.
You said blonde hair?
Brown.
Brown. So, what was the lighting like on the top of the bridge when you see this take place?
Lighting was kind of average. It wasn't super great. Typical highway lighting has kind of an orange tone to it.
Could you see what was taking place?
Absolutely.
Could you see the defendant's face?
I could.
And at his closest point, how close was he to you?
Probably within 10 feet.
What was he wearing?
A gray sweatshirt and what appeared to be red pajama bottoms.
What was your reaction after he dropped the child off the side of the bridge?
I was immediately concerned for the child. I advised radio of what had happened. I was shocked, but immediately my concern is to try the health, welfare, and safety of the child.
Did you hear anything when the child was dropped from the top of the bridge?
I did. I heard a faint scream and a splash.
What happened to the defendant, the driver of the vehicle?
The driver returned to his vehicle, crossed between our two vehicles, and left.
Which way did he drive?
South on 275.
Toward the Skyway?
Yes, sir.
And what did you do?
Immediately ran to the edge of the bridge, looking for any sign of life, something in the water. I didn't see anything at all at that point. It was very cold and windy that night. My options were limited. I did notice that there was a service ladder to the left of me, which would have been the south. I immediately climbed down the service ladder, calling the entire way down, and worked my way down to a safety bumper area for the supports for the bridge, where I continued to call and try and look for the girl.
You mentioned it was cold.
It was.
About how cold was it outside at that time?
It was in the 40s.
Low 40s or upper 40s?
I'd say low 40s.
What were the winds like?
Winds were gusting over 20 miles an hour. At a couple of points, I was nearly blown off of the bumper walkway area at the bottom of the bridge.
What was the water like?
It was rough. It was very dark and cold.
What happened next?
I continued to call until a fire rescue boat arrived in the area. At that point, I got on fire rescue boat 11 to assist in searching and coordinating between police and fire resources.
Did you ever see Phoebe in the water when you were at the base of the bridge walking that catwalk?
I did not.
How long were you on the fire department boat looking for this child?
I estimate approximately 45 minutes.
Were you paying close attention to the time, or were your thoughts elsewhere?
I was not. I looked at my watch a couple of times thinking, we got to find her, we got to find her.
And so tell me about what it was like being in this fire department boat looking for her.
It was stressful. There was definitely a lot of...
What happened when you were on the boat?
We continued to search. Eventually, we were alerted that Eckerd College Search and Rescue had located a child's body in the water.
And what happened next?
Our rescue boat responded to Eckerd College Search and Rescue's location, at which point we transferred the body of a small child from their boat onto fire rescue. I immediately began compressions for CPR.
Where did this transfer take place? Where did they find the body?
It was approximately a half-mile east of the bridge into the bay.
Okay. And is that where you met up with them and transferred her onto your boat?
Yes, sir.
You mentioned that you performed CPR?
I performed compressions.
Okay. Can you describe the appearance of the child?
The skin tone was gray, wet. As I performed compressions, foamy water came out of the mouth and nose. The eyes had a brownish red tinge to it, and the pupils were non-reactive.
What was the temperature of her body to the touch?
Cold to the touch.
Did you observe any signs of life on this child as you're performing compressions on her?
I did not.
What happened next?
At that point, fire rescue began heading to the nearest marina, which was O'Neill's Marina. I continued to give compressions until reaching the marina, at which time I exited the boat and fire rescue transferred her to a land crew for transport to All Children's.
Do you know how high approximately the Dick Misener is from the top to the water below?
It's between 60 to 70 feet depending on the tide.
What was the tide like that evening?
It was low and on the incoming.
And what does that mean in terms of the direction of the water?
So the water would have been moving from the Gulf or from the west to the east into the bay.
Were you taken back to the St. Petersburg Police Department?
I was.
Was that shortly after Phoebe's body was found?
Shortly after arriving in the marina.
And were you interviewed there?
I was.
Now, who interviewed you?
Detective Troy Harper.
Is that standard procedure in this type of situation for another police officer to interview a patrol officer in this type of scenario?
As a witness to a crime of this nature, it would be.
Were you shown a photo pack?
I was.
Can you explain the process of how that was shown to you?
A photo pack is a photo lineup. It usually consists of 6 photographs. There are specific instructions that are read to a witness. The witness has to acknowledge that they understand the instructions, and you're then shown individual images, one at a time, of potential suspects. If you identify one, there's specific instructions on what you to do, whether it be signing it, initialing it, and dating it.
Your Honor, I'm showing defense counsel what's been pre-marked as states 11A for identification. Approach the witness, Your Honor.
Sure.
This is the photo pack that you were shown, Officer Vickers. Showing you the individual photographs without showing this to the jury, and the photo lineup administrator form and instructions.
It is.
These are the photographs that you were shown.
Yes, sir.
And which photograph did you identify?
The 4th photograph.
Is that your signature on that photograph?
That is.
And date?
Yes.
And did you also sign the instruction form as well?
I did.
Did these photographs and the instruction form and administrator form appear to be in the same or substantially same condition as when this photo pack was administered to you?
They are.
And which photograph did you identify again?
The 4th photograph.
Had you ever seen the defendant, John Jonchuck, before?
I had not.
Prior to looking at this photo pack, had you done any research to investigate who the person was that committed this crime?
I had not.
All right, at this time, may the witness stand down to review a map.
Sure.
Approach the witness. Officer Vickers, I'm showing you what's been pre-marked as State's Exhibit 1 for identification. Do you recognize this?
I do.
What is this a map of?
It is the southern tip of Pinellas County.
Does this map fairly and accurately depict the southern tip of Pinellas County where these events occurred that you just testified to?
It does.
Would this map assist the jury in their understanding of what happened?
It would.
Your Honor, at this time the State is asking to admit into evidence what's been pre-marked as States 1 as States 1.
Any objection? No objection. Proceed.
Permission to publish?
Sure.
May the witness stand down?
Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, throughout the weeks of this trial, any exhibit that is introduced will be available to you when you go back and deliver it. All these exhibits will be back there, so you can see it again for you.
If you would use this pointer, officer, can you show the jury the direction that you were traveling as you were going home that night at the end of your shift?
I would have been traveling southbound along 275 this way.
And where's the Dick Misener Bridge in this map?
Right here.
Where were you on Interstate 275 when you first saw the white PT Cruiser pass your vehicle?
I would have been roughly here.
And what exit is that close to?
That's the 54th Avenue South and the Pinellas Bayway exit.
And what was the next big thing that you saw after that near collision?
It would have been the long tire marks and the braking with smoke coming from the tires.
And where did that occur looking at this map?
Approximately here.
Okay. And where's the Pinellas Point Drive street on this map? Do you see it?
It's right here.
Okay. So that would have occurred prior to reaching Pinellas Point Drive south?
Yes, sir.
All right. And after the screeching tires, you said that he stopped on his own on the top of the bridge, correct?
That's correct.
Can you point to the bridge and show us exactly where on the bridge you both were stopped?
Approximately there.
Okay. And which side of the bridge were you on?
Those are the west side.
Okay. Which side of the bridge was the child thrown from?
The west side.
Okay. That would be on this side, correct?
Yes.
And can you demonstrate using the map, which direction the tide was moving?
Would have moved from the west to the east.
And where's Eckerd College on this map?
Roughly here. That's labeled.
And is that where the search and rescue teams would have come from that went into the water?
Yes, sir.
Can you show us on the map where Phoebe's body was found?
Approximately this area.
Okay. And then what direction did the defendant travel when he got back into the white PT Cruiser and fled?
South.
All right. Thank you very much. I'm showing defense counsel what's been pre-marked as State's Exhibits 2A through P for identification, 3A through E, and 4A through L for identification. Approach the witness, Your Honor.
Sure.
Officer, I'm showing you some photographs, so don't show these to the jury just yet. Just take a look at these yourself. This is states 2A, for the record, B, C, D, E, G, H, I, J, K, L, and take a look at those. Tell me if you recognize these photographs.
I do.
You've previously seen these photographs, correct?
I have.
Do they fairly and accurately depict the Dick Misener Bridge, the night of January 7th into the early morning of January 8th, 2015? And also with the daytime photographs, do they fairly and accurately depict the way the Dick Misener Bridge looked on the date that this happened?
They do.
And I'm also showing you states 3. This is going to be A, B, C, D, and E. I'm going to ask you the same questions. They fairly and accurately depict the way the bridge looked in January of 2015.
They do.
And this is states 4, A, B, C, D, E, 4G, 4H, I, J, and K. Those photographs fairly and accurately depict the Dick Misener Bridge on the date that this occurred.
They do.
And some of these photographs were daytime photos, correct?
That's correct.
Did you go out to the Dick Misener Bridge after this occurred so that these photographs could be taken and that you could show some of these different things to the detectives investigating this homicide?
I did.
Your Honor, at this time the state is asking you to admit the previously mentioned photographs into evidence.
Any objection?
No objection, Judge.
Received.
Permission to publish, Your Honor.
Sure.
Officer Vickers, if you will direct your attention to the TV monitor. This is states 2A. What is this photograph of?
That's a photo of the cruiser I was operating that night, Cruiser 3841.
Was that cruiser in that exact spot when this occurred?
Yes, I never had a chance to move it.
Who took these photographs? Would they have been crime scene technicians?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And did you go back to the St. Petersburg Police Department in your cruiser?
I did not.
How did you get back to the St. Petersburg Police Department?
Officer Dan Clancy transported me from the marina.
Okay. And your cruiser was left on the bridge?
It was.
Where was the white PT Cruiser in relation to your police vehicle in this photograph?
It would have been in front of my vehicle.
Okay. And was this the side of the bridge that Phoebe was thrown from
It is.
or dropped off of? This is 2B? What is this?
That's a service ladder on the south side of the center.
Is that the ladder that you used to go to the bottom of the bridge?
It is.
This is 2C. What do we see in this photograph?
Again, that's my cruiser and the service ladder to the left side of the image.
Can I make the witness step closer to the screen? Officer Vickers, could you step to the screen and point to where the white PT Cruiser was when this occurred?
Would have been roughly here.
Thank you. This is photograph 2D. What do we see in this photograph?
The water and the protective bumpers for the supports of the bridge.
What is this in the bottom left-hand corner of the photograph?
That's the ladder I utilized to climb down.
Was this the view that you had when you looked over the edge of the bridge, looking in the water for Phoebe?
It is.
And tell me again what this is?
That's the protective bumpers for to protect the pylons, the support beams of the bridge.
I have some daytime photographs for you. This is 2E. Is that you in this photograph?
That is
Which side?
the left.
Here?
Yes, sir.
And who is this?
That's Detective Harper.
Is he the same person that interviewed you the night that this occurred?
It is
And where are you standing?
along the west side of the bridge.
Is that approximately where your vehicle and the white PT Cruiser was when this occurred?
Approximately.
All right. What are these orange markings here on the railing?
Those orange markings indicate approximately where the defendant dropped the child over the bridge.
Who made those markings?
Crime scene detective or technician Franklin.
Okay. And who pointed out where those markings should be made?
I did.
And again, you were identifying the spot where she was dropped off the side of the bridge with those markings.
That's correct.
This is 2G. What do we see in this photograph?
Again, the west side of the Dick Misener Bridge, the approximate location, the child was dropped over the side of the bridge, and the service ladder I utilized to go down to search for the child.
Are these the orange markings up here?
Yes, sir.
This is 2H. Could you stand down again, officer, and in this photograph show us where the white PT Cruiser was and where your vehicle was with court permission?
My vehicle would have been the lower portion of this photograph, and the PT Cruiser would have been up in this area with the passenger door roughly aligning with the orange markings.
J. They're just different angles, correct?
That's correct.
This is 2L. photograph?
Again, that's the service ladder I utilized to climb down.
This is 2N. Is this the same ladder?
It is.
Were these photographs taken the day after this occurred? Or roughly right after it occurred?
Roughly the day after.
Was the no trespassing sign and the chain there when you climbed down that ladder?
It was. It's rusted there.
All right. Did you have to climb over the chain?
I did.
This is 2O. What do we see in this photograph?
Again, it's the ladder, the first section of ladder down to a platform, and then there's an additional section of ladder.
This is 2P. Is this the catwalk that you saw in the nighttime photographs?
It is.
And what is this here?
It's a platform approximately midway down.
How many platforms are there climbing to the bottom?
I believe 2.
This is 4A. What do we see in this photograph?
It's the Dick Misener Bridge.
This is 4B. You see any markings in this photograph?
I do.
What do those represent?
The approximate location the child was dropped over the side of the bridge.
This is 4C. Can you point to the ladder that you used to climb down to the base of the bridge?
Would have been this ladder.
This is 4D. What do we see in this photograph?
That's clearance height for the bridge between the water and the bottom side of the bridge.
And what does that mean for someone who's not a boater?
That gives you an approximate clearance to safely navigate under a bridge. For a sailboat, they're going to know approximately what their mast height is. In that particular photo, it indicates it's more than 64 feet
From where to where?
from the water to the underside of the bridge.
So 64 feet to this part of the bridge.
Correct.
This is 4E. What do we see in this photograph?
The service ladders and landings.
Would this be landing 1 and landing 2?
Yes, sir.
This is 4G. Is this the catwalk that you went out on?
It is.
What is that made of?
Wood.
And was it easy to walk on? Difficult? How did you find that?
It was a little slippery.
And where did you go? Can you show us in this photograph where exactly you went?
I would have walked across. There's a small gap. Using this platform, I would have walked from that end all the way to the other end, which crosses underneath the northbound lanes as well.
And what were you doing when you were down?
I was calling for some type of a response and also looking for any splashing in the water.
Did you hear anything?
I did not.
Did you use your flashlight?
I did.
Did you see anything?
I did not.
This is 4H. Is that the same catwalk?
It is.
What side of the bridge are we looking at in this photograph? East or west?
Would it be the west side?
This is 4I. Is this the east side?
Yes, the center and east side.
Did you go out on the east side as well, looking for the child?
I did.
What side of the bridge were you on when you were picked up by the fire rescue boat? East
Up,
or west?
approximate center.
In this area here?
Yes, sir.
This is 4J. What do we see in this photograph?
It appears to be the Dick Misener Bridge, looking from the east to the west.
And these are the catwalks here.
That would be the north catwalk. The south catwalk that I used would be on the left side of the image.
This is 4K. Is this the catwalk that you observed here?
Would be the one on the left.
Or is it this one?
The one on the left.
This is 3A. Is this an aerial view of the bridge?
It is.
It's a bridge that you're familiar with because you go that way every night.
Yes, sir. Twice a day.
3B. What bridge is this out here?
That's the Sunshine Skyway Bridge.
A few more aerial photographs. This is 3C. This is also the Dick Misener Bridge.
It is.
3D. 3E. Is the Dick Misener Bridge located in Pinellas County?
It is.
Did all of the events that you testified to today occur in Pinellas County?
They did.
Was the child that you recovered from the bay the same child that the defendant dropped over the bridge?
She was.
How do you know that?
The clothing.
Do you see the person in the courtroom today who dropped this child off the Dick Misener Bridge?
I do.
Will you please point to him and tell the jury what he's wearing?
He's wearing a green long sleeve shirt with a blue tie.
Your Honor, with the record reflected, the witness has identified the defendant.
So,
Are you 100% certain?
Absolutely.
Have a moment, Your Honor?
sure.
Those are all the questions I have this time.
Cross.
Good afternoon, sir.
Afternoon.
I believe you said you were heading home after your shift that night,
That's correct.
at midnight, I think it was.
Yes, sir.
All right. You, that night, were dressed, I think you mentioned that the colors have changed, but I mean, you were in a full police uniform.
I was.
Is the shirt a different color? Is that what's changed? Or?
At the time, we wore a light green top and dark green bottoms with a gray stripe.
But the badge and the insignias, those are all the same, right?
They are.
And you mentioned, and I'm pretty sure I got this right, but help me make sure I'm going. The median lane, is that what we call the fast lane?
Yes.
Okay. And now that part of 275, I can't remember, is there two or it's 275, are there 2 or 3 lanes where we're talking about there?
It's right where it narrows down to 2.
Down to 2, all right. So you're in the fast lane and there's another car that's ahead of you in the slow lane, so to speak?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You, in addition to seeing that car, in your mirror, you are seeing a car well behind you?
And approaching very fast.
Very fast, right. And you think it was coming at you at about 100 miles an hour?
That's my estimate.
And that's not just a guess. I mean, you are, as part of your patrol duties and patrol training, you are trained to guesstimate speeds of vehicles with pretty good accuracy, right?
As part of my training with laser and radar operator, you regularly have to visually estimate speeds and get confirmation of that to pass the class.
Okay, so that's like you guess how fast it's going and then you hit the radar gun, you know exactly how accurate you are, right?
I have to be within 5 miles an hour.
So we know it's pretty much 100 miles an hour, right?
It's going to be pretty close to that.
All right. Now, I'm not positive I got this part right, but I think so. The PT Cruiser is also in the slow lane?
It moved into the slow lane and then back into the fast lane.
Okay. And now, if I'm not mistaken, what I sound like what you told me is that that movement from the slow lane into the fast lane cut you off.
It did.
And so you had to hit your brakes.
That's correct.
And then the person in front, they had to take some evasive actions as well, right?
That's correct.
All right. Is there a lot of other traffic at that time of night?
At that time of the night, there's not a lot of traffic.
So the PT Cruiser goes by, takes you, I assume, a second or half a second to realize just to get your wits back about you.
Yes, sir.
And let me grab this map again if I can. If I can approach witness shows. I don't know if you have to move a little bit, but so show me where he cut you off.
Roughly here.
Okay. Now, and then after he cut you off, show me where you saw the skid marks and the smoke.
Roughly here.
Okay. So when a car blows by you at 100, there's no thought of giving chase at that point because if they're doing that, they're not going to stop anyways, right?
That's correct.
But then a couple seconds later, we see the brakes and the car skidding to a halt or just on the brakes hard enough that it's sliding.
On the brakes hard enough to leave a long skid mark and slowed down significantly.
And that wasn't because of anything you did.
That's correct.
But what that did allow was for you to catch up at that point, right?
That's correct.
So after you've caught up, then how fast is everybody going? Or how fast are you and the PT Cruiser going?
At that time, I'm more paying attention to obtaining a vehicle description and tag. I wasn't really paying so much attention to my speed, but it would have been 70 or less.
So a reasonable speed?
Yes.
Okay. And do you remember what lane? Are you both in the same lane at that point then?
I would have been in the right or the, as you put it, the slow lane.
And the PT Cruiser was in that same lane?
That's correct.
And I think you said that's when you start to gather the information, make, model, license plate number, that's when you start to process that information?
That's correct.
And you call that information in before you're going to even try to make the stop, right?
That's correct.
And at this point then, when you're calling this information in, you're not doing anything to alert the driver in front of you that you're back there, right? I mean, you're not flashing your headlights or anything like that?
No, sir.
Okay. And just so we're clear, going back to when he cuts you off, this car is coming up behind you at 100 miles an hour. You're in a patrol car, Crown Victoria, I take it?
Yes, sir.
I think you told us a 2008.
Yes, sir.
Full light bar on the top,
That's correct.
full insignias on both sides.
That's correct.
Those insignias are, they're reflective, so they're designed to reflect the light if headlights or street lights hit them.
Yes, sir.
So there isn't any question what you're driving that night, is there?
No, sir.
All right, and sorry to go back, but now we're back going up the bridge. You've called in the information and the car pulls over on its own.
That's correct.
And I see that, well, and I saw some pictures, but you pulled over right away as well, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, and it looked to me like you sort of left the cruiser out in the lane a little bit on purpose. That's the proper way to do the stop, right?
It's to give myself an area of safety as I approach a vehicle on a traffic stop.
So you got a little bit of room before the car's in front of you, and the cruiser is just a little into the travel lane.
It's a little offset, yes.
Okay. And you mentioned that it's midnight, so it's dark out, but there are street lights on the bridge,
There are.
and you've got your headlights on, obviously.
Yes, sir.
So your headlights are illuminating or lighting up the back of the car in front of you.
In addition to the overhead light bar at that point.
Okay, right, because when you see the PT Cruiser door open, you hit your lights right away.
That's correct.
And when you see someone get out of the car, that's not the appropriate behavior for someone that's getting pulled over for a speeding ticket, right?
It would not be a normal reaction.
You want that person to stay in the car behind the wheel.
Absolutely.
So at that point, you said you pulled your gun. I didn't quite understand. What's low ready mean?
It would be out of the holster, pointed in a safe direction down, but ready to be up on target if necessary in a quick manner.
All right, and can you just stand up, show the jury what you're talking about?
So it would be up here, pointed in a downward ready area, and I can come up onto target very quickly.
And at this point, are you in between, like you're behind the door of your cruiser, right?
It's the V of the door. Between the body of the car and the door frame creates a V.
Okay, well, we don't have a car here, but I think So that gives you, the door then gives you some cover, but that V gives you the opportunity to be able to draw if you need to?
That's correct.
Okay. And, all right, let's say then for a minute, if you could show us again how you were standing with the, and when you first see, once you get the door open and you first get your gun out, how far away is the Mr. Jonchuck? You just tell me when to stop.
You'd actually need to come closer.
Closer.
About there.
Okay. And when he's getting out of the car, he's looking directly at you, right?
Yes, sir.
And the lights are right there next to you, going, the red
Yes, sir.
and the blue. You're telling him to get back in the car,
That's correct.
and you are not making that as a suggestion. You are ordering him back in the car.
I am.
And it is top of the bridge, windy, and there's maybe a vehicle go. You're yelling at him.
I am.
And what's he do?
He continues to walk towards me.
And you said he's clutching that Swedish Bible to him?
I did not know what it was at the time. It looked like a large binder.
Right. Okay. So, but you see he's got something, he's holding on to something.
Yes.
And refusing to get back in the car.
That's correct.
All right. So, stop me when I get to as close to you as he was, as he ever got to you.
Approximately there.
Still looking at you, and is this when he looks at you and says, "You have no free will"?
That's correct.
Does he say that more than once or just one time?
One time.
And then turns this way and goes around the back of his car?
That's correct.
Thanks, you can sit back down if you want. Well, and you can sit back down, but you didn't, I mean, you stayed standing the whole time, right?
Yes, sir.
Judge, if I could just have a second. In the time that he is approaching you, you're able to get a good enough look at him to roughly estimate how tall he is, right? 6 foot, 6'2"?
Yes, sir.
Able to determine a build, medium to heavy, I think it was?
Yes, sir.
And even were able to estimate a weight or guess at a weight of, I think it was 220 to 230?
I believe in my report I said 200 to 230.
Okay. Somewhere, right, okay. And then he goes over and opens that's the rear passenger side door.
That's correct.
And I believe that when he gets the child out of the car, that he's at this point then facing you,
Yes, sir.
got the child in his arms, but he's looking back at you.
Yes, sir.
And I think you told us he just has a blank expression on his face.
That's correct.
And you are still in that same position you described to us, still ready with your gun if needed.
Yes, sir.
And still telling him now, at this time, it's no longer get back in the car, it's I want to see your hands.
Yes, sir.
I'm guessing because you, although he's got the child in one arm, you can't see this hand, can you?
I couldn't see if he got anything in the vehicle or if he had anything in his waistband or anything else like that.
Right, so you didn't want him reaching for anything.
That's correct.
He disregards that command as well, right?
Yes, sir.
And reaches over the bridge and lets her go.
That's correct.
You didn't didn't hold her by the leg and drop her over the bridge.
No, it was all one motion.
And then after that, walks back around and gets back in his car
Yes, sir.
and leaves in an apparently calm manner.
That's correct.
Nothing further, Judge.
Read aloud.
There you go.
Can Officer Vickers be excused?
We'd ask you to remain on standby.
Okay, thank you. I stand by. Thank you for joining me, officer.
Thank you, ma'am.
State, you may call your next witness.
State calls Willie Wynn.
Willie Wynn. You would step right over here for me, sir. Stand right here. All right, face this clerk, raise your right hand. Repeat you.
You do solemnly swear affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes.
All right, sir, if you would, now step over here for me, please. Have a seat in this red chair. Speaking in a loud and clear voice for the court, all right? Make sure you move up close to the mic.
Good afternoon, Mr. Wynn.
Hello,
Good afternoon. Would you please state your name?
Willie Frank Wynn,
How do you spell your last name, sir?
W-Y-N-N,
What is your occupation?
toll collector,
For where?
Faneuil.
What is that?
Faneuil is a business that contracts on the DOT to collect tolls for
And-
the interstate.
And what specific toll plaza do you work at?
Skyway North,
Okay. And what was your occupation back in January of 2015? Was it the same?
toll collector for third shift.
Okay. What's the current toll for the Skyway?
The current toll is $1.50,
And how about back in 2015?
$1.25,
$1.25?
$1.25.
All right. And what are the duties of a toll collector at the Skyway Plaza?
The regular employee collecting the toll fare and making sure that the money matches with the computer at the end of the shift.
And you collect the cash from the people as they go through the toll plaza, correct?
That's right.
And on January 7th, 2015, which was a Wednesday night, overnight into Thursday morning, January 8th, 2015, were you working?
I was on duty,
Okay. And what lane were you working that
lane 2.
Lane 2. All right, I'm showing defense counsel to pre-mark the states 5A and B. Approach the witness. Mr. Wynn, I'm showing you what's been pre-marked into evidence as state 5A and 5B. Can you tell me what state 5A is a photograph of without showing the jury?
5 is the toll plaza and the lanes, southbound lanes for 275.
Okay. And this is 5B. What is this a photograph of?
5B is a picture of lane 1 and lane 2.
And is this at the northbound toll plaza?
Southbound.
Oh, I'm sorry, southbound, but it's the north plaza, but southbound, correct?
Correct.
And this photograph here, 5A, is also the southbound toll plaza, correct?
Correct.
And this is the toll plaza that you were working at the evening of January 7th, 2015.
That's right.
Do these photographs fairly and accurately depict that southbound toll plaza?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, at this time, the state asks to admit what's been pre-marked as states 5A and 5B as states 5A and 5B.
Any objection?
Permission to publish?
Sure.
Mr. Wynn, if you'll direct your attention to that monitor, just over your right shoulder. This is 5A. I'm going to ask you some questions about this photograph, sir. What direction is traffic moving in this photograph?
Southbound.
And southbound would be this direction,
Yes.
going here.
Yes.
What is this building here, sir, to my left?
The administrative building for the plaza.
Okay, and what types of offices do they have in there?
That's where the main office, the vaults, and the main offices.
Okay. And what is this here?
That's the top of the lane, the canopy. It was called a canopy that covers the booths, all the booths in the lanes.
And are the tolls collected in each of these individual lanes?
Yeah.
Okay. Do the lanes have numbers assigned to them?
The lane closest to the building is 1, in the middle is 2, then there's 3, 4, 5, and the last lane is a sun pass lane.
So there are 6 lanes, correct?
Yeah.
Released back in 2015?
Yeah.
All right. On the evening of January 7th, 2015, overnight into January 8th, in the morning of January 8th, 2015, you said you were working in lane 2, correct?
Yeah.
Is that this lane?
Yeah.
This is photograph 5B. What do we see here in 5B?
There's the entrance to the lanes 1 and 2, coming off the bridge.
And is traffic going southbound in this photograph?
Southbound.
Okay. And which lane is lane 2 in this photograph?
The middle lane.
Okay. Would you please stand up and point to lane 2?
Here's lane 2. Yeah.
Is that the lane you were working this evening?
Correct.
Okay. And when you're working that evening, you're actually in the booth, correct? Collecting the tolls from the people who are going across the skyway?
Yes.
Is this the administrative building here to the left?
Yeah. Right there would be the administrative building as you approach the lane.
All right. You can have a seat, sir. So I want to draw your attention now to just after midnight, which would have been the first few minutes of January 8th, 2015, Thursday. You said you were working, correct?
Yes.
When you were in lane 2, did you hear and observe something just after midnight?
Just after midnight, I did hear screeching tires. And when I looked out the window, I saw a white PT Cruiser had just stopped behind the last car in my lane.
What happened?
Well, he was there for like 5 to 10 seconds, and he backed out. Then he went into lane 3, the lane next to lane 2. Ran over some cones in a closed lane, then kept going.
The night that this happened, was lane 2 an open lane for customers to drive through?
Lane 2, my lane, was an open lane.
And lane 1 as well, correct?
Lane 1 was an open lane.
Was lane 3 closed?
Lane 3 was closed.
Were there cones set out to keep drivers from driving into lane 3?
There was 3 cones out.
And you said the white PT Cruiser drove over those cones
Yes,
and then went through lane 3.
yes.
Could you see who was driving inside the white PT Cruiser?
I saw a white male driving.
All right. Your Honor, some defense counsel with the pre-marked State Exhibit 6 for identification. Approach witness.
Sure.
Mr. Wynn, I'm showing you what's been pre-marked as State's Exhibit 6 for identification. Do you recognize this CD?
Yes.
What is that a CD of?
This video shows a picture of the plaza, the lanes. Yeah.
Have you watched this video?
Yes, I am.
And are those your initials on that CD?
Yes, I marked those.
Okay. Does this CD show the white PT Cruiser going through lane 3?
In lane 3, yes.
Okay. Does it fairly and accurately depict what you saw that night with the white PT Cruiser?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time the State would ask to admit what's been pre-marked as State 6 as State 6.
No objection. No objection. Received.
Permission to publish?
Sure.
And Mr. Wynn, does this video show the same thing from several different angles? Does it show the same event from several different cameras?
Yes, sir.
Is that the white PT Cruiser?
Backing out of lane 2. Yes, sir.
Are those the cones you were referring to that he drove over?
Yes, sir.
Were there other vehicles?
Not at that time.
Well, let me rephrase that. Were there other vehicles in front of the white PT Cruiser waiting to pay when he pulled up?
Yes, there was.
Is this lane 2 with the white van?
Yes.
Is that your lane and your booth?
Yes.
Do you know how many other vehicles were in the line when the white PT Cruiser pulled up?
At least 2.
Is that lane 3? Is this the angle showing the vehicles going south?
Yes.
And beyond this is what bridge?
The Skyway, Skyway North. The Skyway Bridge.
And where's the other toll plaza?
The Skyway North Plaza, or,
That would be the
I
other.
mean, Skyway South Plaza is the opposite of Skyway North,
Right.
going northbound.
Right, on the other side of the bridge in Manatee, correct?
Yes.
May I have a moment, Your Honor? That's all I have, Your Honor.
Cross.
Good afternoon, Mr. Wynn.
Hello?
As you're approaching the toll, if I were driving down 275, approaching the toll right there that we saw in the photos, there are signs and billboards with lights alerting you that the toll area is ahead, correct?
Yes.
Do you know about how far out those start?
Couldn't say for sure.
Okay. But there's multiple signs that say you're approaching a toll booth?
Yes.
Nothing further.
Anything further, Mr. Bowman?
No, Your
Will Mr. Wynn be excused?
Yes, Your Honor.
Defense excused?
No, Judge.
Okay, thank you for your testimony, Mr. Wynn.
Can we first just?
Yes. I know it's at 6:30, but we're stopping now. Tomorrow, 9 to 6. And I have a very short calendar. We'll start on time. And that's about it. Don't discuss it with anybody. Leave the pads on the chairs. Any questions at all? Okay, and you know you're free to bring whatever into the courtroom.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Motion turned over, folks.
Thank you very much.
Yours out of the hearing in court, Your Honor.
Anything further we need to discuss? No? Have a good evening.
All rise. Record being recessed along. Go ahead.
might as well all quit for the day.